Pick up almost any modern handgun, and you're holding something that will feel new for a few years, maybe a decade, before it's replaced, upgraded, or just forgotten. But there's one pistol whose silhouette is instantly recognizable, more than a century after it was created. It's a gun that served in muddy trenches, dense jungles, and on desert raids under the green glow of night vision. Its official name is the U.S. pistol, caliber 45 M1911, but to most of the world, it's just the 1911, and it might be the longest-serving handgun design in history. To understand why this slab of steel just refused to retire, we have to go back to the early 1900s. The United States was fighting insurgents in the Philippines, and American troops found their small .38 caliber revolvers weren't always up to the job. Stories, some likely exaggerated, told of enemy fighters who would absorb multiple hits and keep on charging. The Army knew it needed something new, a sidearm that hit harder, fired faster, and could survive the brutal conditions of modern warfare. Enter John Moses Browning, a genius from Utah whose ideas would shape the firearms of the entire 20th century. Browning didn't just design a new pistol. He completely reinvented what a military handgun could be. His automatic pistol fired a heavy .45 ACP cartridge from a magazine inside the grip. It used a short recoil, tilting barrel system that controlled the powerful round and made follow-up shots manageable. And unlike the delicate automatic pistols of the time, Browning's design was brutally simple on the inside. Fewer tiny parts meant fewer things to break, bend, or jam when mud and grime inevitably found their way in. The Army's trials were grueling. They subjected competing pistols to what we would now call torture tests, firing thousands of rounds, pouring sand and dirt into the actions, and running them hot and cold. Through it all, Browning's design, built by Colt, just kept working. In 1911, it was officially adopted as the U.S. military's standard sidearm, and the date stuck, becoming both its name and its legend. By World War I, the 1911 was in the trenches of Europe, where it earned a reputation that was almost mythical. It was a last-chance weapon in close-quarters combat, where a single, heavy .45 slug could end a fight decisively. After the war, while other nations replaced their handguns, the U.S. standardized on the 1911. It rode with cavalrymen switching to armored cars and pilots, climbing into biplanes. In 1924, a slightly updated version, the M1911A1, was introduced, and then the design was essentially frozen for decades. World War II turned the 1911 into a global icon. Over 2 million were produced by companies you might know from making typewriters or sewing machines. It was in tanker holsters in North Africa, shoulder rigs over Europe, and covered in mud in the Pacific. GIs would clean them with gasoline and rags and head right back into the fight. The pistol's longevity wasn't just about toughness. It was also about feel. Ask anyone who loves the 1911 why, and they won't talk about ballistics charts first. They'll talk about the trigger, a clean, straight-back pull that can be tuned to break like glass. They'll talk about the ergonomics, a grip angle that just feels right and points naturally for so many shooters. For generations of American service members, this was the handgun they learned on. Through the Cold War, from Korea to Vietnam and beyond, the 1911 remained the standard. While the rest of the world moved on, American troops carried essentially the same .45 their grandfathers used. It wasn't until 1985 that the U.S. military finally replaced it with the 9mm Beretta M9. That should have been the end of the story. But it wasn't. Instead, the 1911 stopped being mandatory and started being chosen. Elite units like Marine Force Recon and Army Special Forces held on to customized 1911s or even brought them back. They valued its stopping power and precision for high-stakes close-quarters work. At the same time, the civilian world was rediscovering the platform, creating an entire industry of custom variants for competition and self-defense. The 1911's DNA spread worldwide, with dozens of countries adopting copies or licensed versions that are still in service today. Walk into a modern armory and you'll see polymer frames and high-capacity magazines. But look closer, and you'll still find those steel-frame pistols that trace their lineage directly back to Browning as century-old blueprint. In a world obsessed with the next big thing, the 1911 is a powerful reminder that some designs are just right from the start. It balanced power, reliability, and human factors so perfectly that it became the benchmark for all other handguns. That's why, over 100 years later, The world's longest-serving handgun design is still very much alive, not as a museum piece but as a working tool. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this look into firearm history, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more content.